I think we should get started. And I wanted to get started. You know, I was looking at your work and I felt that like an indigenous land acknowledgement would be a nice way to start. Um, but I just, I was thinking that we are probably, I'm on Lenape land where I am. I don't know where you are.
Yes, Lenape land.
Lenape. But of course, we're doing this over the internet. And so I saw this thing on Teresa's Out of an Abundance of Caution streaming show on Twitch, and I wanted to read it. It's by Adrian Wong. Since our activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technology, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We are using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to so much of the art we make leave a significant carbon footprint, contributing to changing climate that disproportionately affects indigenous people worldwide. I invite you to join me in acknowledging all of this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time and for each other to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Anything you would add?
Not really adding, it's just a thought that came to my mind that I was talking to my mom the other day and she said something very wise in the sense of, you know, like you have so many, like she's back in Ecuador and she said, you have so many resources over there, like you should be so grateful also for the fact that she brought in politics that I wasn't expecting her to do, but she said, how countries in the north are always the ones that are going to be able to move forward while we are still getting stuck. And like it just, what you just said, what Teresa wrote resonated so much right now in the sense that we are so lucky to still be able to connect. Well, many people, like many indigenous tribes in Ecuador right now, well, in the midst of the pandemic, we're going through so much. And right now it's really hard to even get education over there.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you for the acknowledgement. I think like incorporating the virtual space makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, thanks for contributing. I think I'll introduce you now. Salomé Egas is a proud Ecuadorian mestiza, an actor, dancer, activist, translator, and arts educator, and apparently an assistant director sometimes. She obtained her bachelor's degree from Skidmore College in dance and theater, attended the Shakespeare Programme at the British American Drama Academy, and obtained a master's degree from NYU Gallatin, focusing her studies in international education, mythology, and performing arts. Last year, Salomé was a fellow of Hemispheric Institute's Emerging Artist Program for Political Performance. Salomé's works aim to combine her passion for the performing arts and social justice with the goal of helping her Latinx and many other immigrant communities to heal from the pain and traumas created by uprootedness and alienation through applied dance and theater. Recently, she's been exploring the themes of radical self-love and indigenization as tools to empower the ancestral knowledge that bodies of color carry with them. And in 2020, we were so lucky that Salomé presented her work Reflejos at the Exponential Festival. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I was watching the videos on your website, all of which are so cool, and I recommend everyone, including Charles Quitner, hello. Charles, everyone should check them out on your website. And one thing I was thinking about is that, you know, little kids, you know, we train as, or like, we're interested in like making people laugh or dancing or singing or, you know, putting on plays or whatever. But I wonder, like, where do performance artists come from? Like, when is that moment in, you know, a little kid's life when you're interested in hamming it up, where you go, oh, there's another way to be? What was that moment for you?
I think, you know, I guess it's gonna be about my mom right now, bringing her back into the room. No, my mom was always very supportive of whatever I wanted to try in life, and I think it comes from she didn't have those choices. So like at one point, when I was like a really little girl, I said, I want to learn how to paint. So she figured out a way in which she would like take me to the municipal school in Quito, and obviously it was like a subsidized program, so she was able to afford it, and she like let me be there for like 7 years of my life just learning how to draw. At one point I was like, I'm tired of this. I want to learn music. And she's like, okay. Like, so she made her way to find like a school of music she could be able to get subsidized, like a stipend, whatever, to get me in there. At one point, with the music, I didn't last very long. I was like, this is cool. This is not my thing. And then eventually, the final one was dance. And at one point, I realized that, you know, like there was kind of a trajectory of me being in the arts, and my mind was just like ready to create and ready to do everything that was out of the box. And it's funny because like in my, like Ecuadorians, we're very conservative, and you're also always, you're usually expected to be either an engineer or a doctor or an architect, a very like linear career. And because I had all these tools growing up, like I learned so much growing up. At one point, I think it was in high school. Like that's another thing. In high school in Ecuador, you have to either pick like a very specific path. It's either you're going to be an engineer, and this is high school. This is like 15, 16-year-olds.
Sure.
You have to either be, if you want to be a doctor, you follow like the biology track. If you want to be an engineer, you follow a physics track. And then if you want to be anything else, you follow the philosophy track. And my whole family is full of engineers. So I was like, this makes sense. Like, I'll just, you know, go into physics. I kid you not, I sat down for an hour. I was like this. The class ended. Not to be disrespectful to the teacher. And I was like, I'm going to go to philosophy.
That's funny. One day, huh? One day. It lasted one day. That's funny. One day.
I really tried. I was like, I gave in my best.
Well, you know what's funny is, speaking of physics, I noticed just a small observation from a lot of your works. You're really good at falling. Where did you learn that?
Thank you for noticing that.
Yeah. Like, clown college? Is she a like dancer, gymnastics? What is it?
Dance. It's mainly dance training. And I feel, because I started dancing when I was around 8 years old. I used to do a little bit of figure skating before that, which brought me into dance. Because I had an injury and I couldn't really skate anymore. The weight of the skate was too much. My doctor said, why don't you try dance? It's like skating without the skate. So I was like, that makes sense. And I feel like in both, you have a lot of like going in and just falling and trying to stand up again. And I think it's also not only like a physical act in my life, but it's been a recurrence of like, okay, this doesn't work out. What else? Okay, let's move on. Like, what else can I do?
Yeah. There's a lot of like some of the stuff I love. And like as a theme, there's like falling in the work, but there's a lot of like bondage, there's untying, there's like, you know, getting free is like such a prevalent theme in the work. So what kind of dance did you study when you were young?
I started with ballet, so very like technical training, which I think it was just great for me to build as a discipline. It was just like good to have like a schedule, good to have like, okay, I'm going to start doing ballet from this time to this time. And from then on, it's freestyle. And then like some other dances that we like normally do in Ecuador, like Latin dance was like, it's a main prevalent thing that we all do all the time. So movement was just kind of part of it all the time. But my upbringing or like having like a professional like instruction in ballet is what really like pushed me through like to continue being able to do it and like push myself to keep on dancing. Eventually I was studying first with like the national youth school in Ecuador, the National Dance Youth School in Ecuador. And eventually I became part of their company, and once you go into their company you start doing more contemporary work. So it's more like modern, contemporary. And I love that, apart from that we were able, to like, it was our own repertoire that also included a lot of Ecuadorian rhythms and indigenous rhythms and Afro-Ecuadorian rhythms. So it became a very like strong foundation for me once I went to college. That in college, the US, it was more
Cool.
traditionally ballet
Wow.
and
Um,
contemporary.
I think you mentioned a little bit of that training and the history of dance in Ecuador in that article you wrote for American Theater about Ecuadorian theater. Um, and I loved what you had to say about like the street theater and how, you know, that there's that strain, there's that lineage of like street theater in Ecuador that's really you know, powerful and political and entertaining and family friendly and, you know, accessible. And I remember while I was reading that, I did a brief semester abroad in Antigua, Guatemala. And I remember that some of the best, like I saw some plays, I saw some dances, they were good, but the best performance I saw, or the most interesting to me, was like street performance. And I remember there was this guy who did like corporeal body puppetry, right? So
Hmm.
he had his belly was the face of the man, and like below the belly was a little like sweatshirt, and on top of the belly was a little hat, and then there was like some glasses, a nose, a mustache, and his belly button was the mouth of the character, right? Um, and like the stuff he was able to come up with floored me. It was so cool. I can you talk a little bit about that performance tradition in Ecuador and maybe how it ties into your work?
Yeah, actually, yeah. Thank you for bringing that article up. Like every time I like think about like how I started the article, I think of going back home and like what was my first experience of the theater. And again, God bless my mom, would like get out of her way to bring me these performances, like sitting with me in the street performance, you know, just like, and like, yeah, like to me that was the most fun. Like, yeah, like it's really nice to go and sit down at a theater, but as a little kid, you don't really want to be doing that. You want to be like jumping and like chanting along whatever they tell you to chant along. So I was like, well, this is fun. Like the whole thing about street theater or like the physical theater that is done is that it's big, right? Right. So like it's homemade, meaning that like you have to play with whatever you find around you, right? And you have to do with whatever material. These are usually companies that have no resources whatsoever. So like it all comes from, oh, like I found a piece, like some cans over here. Oh, I found some like pieces of fiber here. How do I put this together into something that is larger than life and that can create happiness for other people? Um, so I don't know, like I feel like I was always inspired by that sense of bringing energy or bringing some larger than life. Hence, there's like a lot of bondage in my work. There's a lot of like long facts. I think there's something about like being able to color and like objects that normally you wouldn't, I guess, like very against the realistic or naturalistic versions of what American theater is to me to bring.
Great. Well, thanks for expounding on that. I Your work, you know, I think there's also a strain in your work that's really political, or you know, interested in identity politics, which you know, unfortunately, is still a political act, right? Or the work is to transform that. Um, and I recently,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a bit of a playwright too, and I had a teacher caution me recently about her name's Sybil Kempson. She's brilliant. But she was talking about, you know, not letting the aboutness cannibalize the work. And I find that like with a lot of my friends who write political theater or activist theater, there's always like this tightrope that you have to walk, right? Where it's like, what's the difference between this piece of art and this thing I'm outraged by, you know? And how do you get from the outrage to the art? Or, and like, are there some ideas where you're just like, you know, the real performance is to be in the streets and to be active about this thing and not to make a piece of work about it? I wonder if, can you talk to
Mm.
that process?
Feel that I discovered my way to express what I'm enraged about is through all the tools that I learned growing up, right? Like through creativity. And one of the main things for me was that I don't want to scare people, right? Like I want to be heard. I want to be about it, but also bring in metaphors that make people more, or like in my way, more of a physical sensation. I'm talking about specific to my body. And also in Reflect, I'm like literally covering my whole body in white paint. I think they become very satisfies you in some way. Either causes you like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go through that. It makes you try to pull away, or some people are more interested in it. So I feel like I'm trying to always find the visual analogy that like conveys into a more physical reaction of what I'm feeling. And that's how I guess my activist work comes in. This is when I'm like thinking, how do I make you empathize with something that you have no idea where it comes from? Obviously we have completely different upbringings, everyone in my audience, even the people that I work in my project as a director. So how do I make sure that like at least there's some connecting bond that like makes you want to see what is happening with me?
Yeah, you do that really well, yeah, it's I commend you. It's a high wire act that you do,
Thank you.
getting people to empathize and also think about like the larger systems of oppression. In some of the works, I know in other works, you know, they're more abstract. But yeah, I really enjoyed this this opportunity to look at your work and consider it and chat with you. We're wrapping up a little bit. I wondered, do you have anything to plug? Any upcoming projects you want people to know about?
Yes, so I'll be performing at well, it's gonna be a Zoom performance rather. I'm gonna be to video now a little bit more because, you know,
Nice.
COVID times. But it's gonna be at the closing ceremony of Immigrant Biennial. I'm still trying to pronounce that right. That's gonna be December 16th, if I'm not wrong. 16 or 17. The information is in my, like, I'm gonna put it up in my website. It's in my Instagram, so look it up there. I'll be presenting. Actually, I'm gonna be presenting an iteration of Reflejo, the one that I formed at the beginning of the year, but this time it's gonna be a film version of it.
Cool. That's great. Well, as Jonathan Van Ness says in his podcast, Getting Curious, this is like Yogi Recess. If there's any position I missed that you wanted to get to, if there's anything you'd like to try, now is the opportunity. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience that we didn't get to?
Like a simple take care, everyone. It's a rough time out there. Just be mindful, find yourself too.
Great. Well, thank you for making this time, Salome.
Yeah.
I really appreciated chatting with you and getting to know your work a little bit better. I'll just close out by saying that the Exponential Festival is fundraising. You can find that link through our bio. And yeah, we're so interested and excited to see what you come up with next.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much. Take care, Nick.
Thank you. You take care as well. Bye, everyone.